I was sitting in my leather recliner in the corner of what used to be my study, in the house I'd built 43 years ago in the Pearl District of Portland. My name is Robert Matthews. I'm 68 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew my son. The November rain was doing its usual dance against the windows. I'd always loved that sound. My late wife Sarah used to say it was God's way of washing the world clean. She'd been gone for 6 years now, and I still caught myself turning to tell her things, only to remember she wasn't there anymore. I'd been living with my son Michael and his wife Amanda for the past 14 months. After Sarah died, the big house felt too empty. When Michael suggested I move in with them and their 2 kids, it seemed like the right thing. Family, taking care of family. That's how I was raised. That's how I raised Michael. I built my first rental property when I was 24. A small duplex on the east side, nothing fancy. Over the next 40 years, I built that into 19 properties across Portland and Beaverton. Apartment buildings, small commercial spaces, a few single-family homes I renovated and rented out. I never wanted to be one of those big corporate landlords. I knew my tenants' names. I fixed things myself when I could. When Mrs. Chen in Building 4 lost her job, I gave her 3 months' grace on rent. When the Rodriguez family needed an extra bedroom for their new baby, I knocked down a wall myself. That's what I did. I built things. I fixed things. I took care of people. Michael grew up watching me work. He'd come with me on weekends when I'd do repairs. I taught him how to fix a leaky faucet, how to patch drywall, how to talk to tenants with respect. He went to college, got his business degree, worked in tech for a few years, but he never showed much interest in the properties. That was okay. I never forced it. I always told him, "Build your own dream, son. Mine is already built." The arrangement seemed perfect at first. I had my own room, a small suite really, on the first floor. I still managed the properties, collected rent, dealt with maintenance issues. Michael and Amanda both worked full-time. She was a pharmaceutical sales rep, gone 3 days a week traveling. He worked as a project manager at a software company downtown. I'd pick up the kids from school sometimes, help with homework, make dinner on the nights they worked late. I wasn't a burden. I paid them $1,500 a month for room and board, even though they said I didn't have to. I bought groceries, paid for family dinners out, gave the grandkids generous birthday and Christmas gifts. I kept my space clean, stayed out of their way, tried to be helpful, but not intrusive. But things started changing about 4 months ago. Little things at first. Amanda would ask about the properties, how much they were worth, what the rental income was like. Michael started suggesting I was working too hard, that I should take it easier at my age. They brought up retirement communities a few times, just in passing. "You know, Dad, some of those places are really nice now, not like the old nursing homes. They have activities, social events. You might make new friends." I'd laugh it off. I have friends, I have my tenants, I have work to do. Then the comments got more pointed. Amanda would sigh loudly when I'd be on the phone dealing with a maintenance issue. "Robert, you're 68. Don't you think it's time to let someone else handle these things?" Michael started talking about how I was forgetting things more often. A dentist appointment I supposedly missed, even though I had no memory of making one. Keys I'd allegedly left in the front door overnight, though I was certain I'd locked up as always. I started to feel watched, scrutinized, like they were keeping score of something. 3 weeks ago was Thanksgiving. Amanda's whole family came over. Her parents, her sister and brother-in-law, her aunt and uncle. 12 people total, crowded around the dining room table I'd helped Michael and Amanda pick out 5 years ago. I was carving the turkey. I've always carved the turkey. It was my job, my tradition. I'd done it at every Thanksgiving since Michael was born. I was halfway through the breast when Michael stepped up beside me. "Here, Dad, let me help with that." "I've got it, son. Been doing this for 40-some years." "I know, but—" He glanced at Amanda. She gave him a look I couldn't quite read. "Your hands are shaking a bit. Let me finish up." I looked down. My hands were steady as they'd ever been. "My hands are fine, Michael." "Dad." His voice was louder now. The conversation at the table had stopped. Everyone was watching. Just, let me help, please. I felt heat rising in my face, but I stepped aside. No point making a scene in front of everyone. Amanda's mother, Patricia, spoke up from her seat. It's so wonderful that Robert has you two to look after him. At his age, it must be such a relief to have family nearby. At his age? I said, trying to keep my voice light. I'm 68, Patricia, not 90. Amanda's father, Gerald, chimed in. Still, Robert, you've got to start thinking about the future. Have you considered what happens if something happens to you? Are your affairs in order? I felt my jaw tighten. My affairs have been in order since before you met Amanda, Gerald. Michael's hand was on my shoulder then, steering me away from the table. Dad, why don't you sit down? I'll bring you a plate. I can make my own plate. Dad, firmer now. Just sit down. I sat down. The conversation resumed, but quieter now. I could feel them all glancing at me. These people who barely knew me, judging me, pitying me. After dinner, I excused myself early and went to my room. I could hear them in the living room, their voices carrying through the old house's thin walls. Laughter, the clink of wine glasses. At one point, I heard Amanda's aunt say something about difficult transitions and knowing when it's time. Time for what? I wasn't dead yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I got up to get some water. The house was dark, quiet. I was halfway to the kitchen when I heard voices from Michael's home office. The door was cracked open, just an inch, but I could see the light on inside. I should have announced myself. Should have just walked to the kitchen and made noise so they'd know I was there. But something in Michael's tone stopped me. He sounded excited, eager in a way that made my stomach tighten. I moved closer to the door. Through the crack, I could see Michael at his desk, Amanda standing behind him, both of them staring at his laptop screen. The attorney said we could file for conservatorship within the month, Amanda was saying. The missed appointments, the supposed confusion, the incident with the turkey today, it all builds a pattern. What incident? Michael asked. He carved the turkey fine, but everyone saw him get confused when you tried to help. Your hands were shaking. You couldn't do it anymore. That's the story. Amanda's voice was matter of fact. Patricia and Gerald will back us up. They're already concerned about his competency. My blood froze. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. Once we have conservatorship, Michael continued, reading from the screen, we'll have full control over his assets. All 19 properties, the bank accounts, everything. We can make all financial and medical decisions. And he'll be in Riverside Gardens by Christmas, Amanda added. I already talked to them. They have a room opening up, $2,600 a month, which we'll pay from his rental income. The rest flows to us. That's over $43,000 a month in rental income, minus expenses, Michael said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Even after paying for his care, we're looking at $35,000 a month, minimum. More once we sell off the smaller properties and consolidate, Amanda said. Your father was too sentimental about them. We'll keep the best performing ones, sell the rest. Robert Chen's already interested in the East Side buildings. I must have made a sound, some small gasp or sharp intake of breath. They both looked up, toward the door. I stepped back quickly, as silently as I could, and moved down the hallway to the bathroom. I closed the door, turned on the light, ran the water, splashed my face, stared at myself in the mirror. My son, my boy, the child I'd raised, taught, loved, unconditionally. He was going to declare me incompetent, lock me away, steal everything I'd built. I turned off the water and stood there in the quiet bathroom, my heart hammering. Think, Robert, think. I dried my face and went back to my room. For the rest of the night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, planning. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. Friday morning, I woke up at my usual time, 5:30. I made coffee, read the news on my tablet. Michael and Amanda came down around 7:30. I smiled at them. Morning. Sleep well? Great, Dad, Michael said, pouring himself coffee. He kissed Amanda on the cheek. They looked so normal, so loving. If I hadn't heard what I'd heard, I'd never suspect a thing. I was thinking, I said casually, I might go visit Jim today. Jim Thornton was my oldest friend, a retired attorney who'd handled most of my property deals over the years. Haven't seen him in a while. Maybe grab lunch. That sounds nice, Amanda said, not looking up from her phone. Also, need to stop by a few properties. The heating system in Building 7 is acting up again. Michael frowned. Dad, you know you can hire someone to handle that stuff. I like to see things myself. You know that? He exchanged a look with Amanda. Sure, just be careful, okay? Maybe don't climb any ladders or anything. I smiled. I'll be careful. I left at 9. First stop was Jim's office in Beaverton. He'd kept a small practice even in retirement, handling estate planning for old clients and friends. When I walked in, he looked up from his desk and grinned. Bob Matthews. To what do I owe the pleasure? I closed the door behind me. Jim, I need your help, and I need you to not ask too many questions. His smile faded. He'd known me 40 years. He could tell when something was serious. Okay. What do you need? Over the next hour, I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the plan for conservatorship, the nursing home. I showed him my phone, my calendar, my records. Jim, look at this. I'm not losing my mind. I don't miss appointments because I make a detailed calendar of everything. See? Right here. He studied my phone, scrolling through months of meticulous records. Maintenance schedules, tenant meetings, rental payments received, every detail documented, organized, precise. You're sharp as ever, Bob, he said quietly. So what do you want to do? I want to sell everything, all 19 properties, and I want it done in 72 hours. Jim's eyes widened. Bob, that's not possible. Even a fire sale takes weeks too. I don't need market value. I need speed. I leaned forward. Robert Chen wants my East Side buildings. I heard Amanda mention his name. Call him. Tell him I'll sell him all 5 buildings for 20% below market value if he can close by Monday. Cash deal. That's leaving millions on the table. I don't care. I need this done before they can file for conservatorship. Jim studied my face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, who else? We spent the next 3 hours on the phone. Jim called every real estate investor he knew in Portland. I called tenants I'd known for decades who'd expressed interest in buying their buildings. I called property managers, developers, anyone who might want to close fast. By Friday evening, we had letters of intent on 16 of the 19 properties. Total value, $9.2 million. 23% below what I could have gotten if I'd taken my time, but that wasn't the point anymore. Saturday morning, I met with lawyers, paperwork, signatures, escrow accounts opening, title companies working overtime for rush fees I gladly paid. Saturday evening, I had dinner with Michael and Amanda like nothing was happening. Amanda asked how my day was. Oh, fine, visited Jim. We played some chess, looked at a couple properties, same old. Michael smiled. Glad you're staying active, Dad. I smiled back. Always. Sunday was more paperwork, more signatures. Jim worked like a demon, pushing everyone, calling in every favor he had. By Sunday evening, we had deals closed on 17 properties. The remaining 2 were scheduled to close Monday morning. Total proceeds, $9.4 million, after all the quick sale discounts and rush fees. Sunday night, I couldn't eat. I pushed food around my plate while Michael talked about his week, about a project at work, about the kids' school activities. I nodded and smiled and felt like I was outside my own body, watching this play act. After dinner, I went to my room and started packing. 1 suitcase, clothes, a few personal items, photos of Sarah, the watch my father gave me. Everything else I could leave behind. At 10 p.m., Jim called. Last 2 properties closed. Money's in your new accounts. You did it, Bob. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, and for the first time in 3 days, I let myself feel it. The betrayal, the grief, the absolute shattering of everything I'd believed about my son. Then I stood up, straightened my shoulders, and finished packing. Monday morning, I woke up before dawn. I shaved, showered, put on my good suit. The navy one Sarah had always said made me look distinguished. I made coffee and sat in the kitchen, waiting. Michael came down at 7:15. He stopped when he saw me at the table, dressed up, suitcase by my feet. "Dad? What's going on? You have an appointment or something?" "Not exactly." I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit down, Michael. I've got to get to work, Sit down." Something in my voice made him obey. He sat. Amanda appeared in the doorway, wearing her bathrobe, hair messy from sleep. "What's happening? Both of you should hear this," I said. I pulled out a folder from my briefcase. Inside were copies of all the sale documents, neatly organized. I slid it across the table to Michael. He opened it, frowned, started reading. I watched his face as understanding dawned. His eyes widened. He flipped through page after page, faster and faster. What is this?" "I sold everything," I said calmly. "All 19 properties. Closed the deals yesterday and this morning. $9.4 million. Currently sitting in accounts you have no access to." Michael's face went white. "You can't. Dad, you can't just—" "I can, actually. I'm the sole owner. Was the sole owner. All legal." Jim made sure of that. I looked at Amanda, who'd gone completely still in the doorway. "I heard you. Thursday night. The plan for conservatorship. The nursing home. Taking my properties. Dad, we're worried about you. Don't." I held up my hand. "I heard exactly what you said. The attorney. The pattern you were building. The incident with the turkey. Your hands were shaking. You couldn't do it anymore. That's the story. Remember? Patricia and Gerald will back us up." Amanda moved into the room. "Robert, you're confused. You misunderstood what you heard. We were just discussing options in case something happened to you, in case you needed help. I'm not confused. I'm not incompetent. And I'm not staying here another minute." I stood up. Michael stood too, his hands shaking now for real. "Dad, wait. Please. Let's just talk about this. You're making a huge mistake. Those properties were your life's work. They were. Now they're sold. And the money is going somewhere you'll never touch it." "Where?" His voice cracked. "What are you going to do?" "That's no longer your concern." I picked up my suitcase. "Jim is handling everything. If you try to contact me, if you try to file for conservatorship or interfere in any way, he has instructions to make certain things public. Specifically, a recording I made Thursday night of a conversation about declaring me incompetent, forging a pattern of confusion, and stealing my assets. Oregon is a one-party consent state for recordings, by the way. Jim made sure I knew that. It was a bluff. I hadn't recorded anything, but they didn't know that." Michael's face crumbled. "Dad, please. I'm sorry. We just thought. You're alone, and you're getting older, and we wanted to help. You wanted $43,000 a month. Let's not pretend this was about helping me." I walked to the front door. Amanda followed me. "Robert, please. Think about the kids. Think about your grandchildren. You're just going to leave? Never see them again?" I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. That one hurt. Emma and Jake. They were innocent in this. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't look at Michael and Amanda every day and pretend everything was okay. "Tell them Grandpa loves them," I said quietly. Tell them whatever you want. That I was sick, that I got confused, that I needed to go somewhere to be taken care of. You were planning to tell them that anyway." I opened the door and stepped out into the cold December morning. Behind me, I heard Michael starting to cry. Actually sob. "Dad, please. Don't do this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove to Jim's office. We spent the day setting up trusts, establishing new accounts, creating a financial structure that would protect everything I'd worked for. I put aside money for Emma and Jake's college funds, not accessible by their parents, but there for them when they turned 18. The rest, I split between charitable trusts for low-income housing and a fund to help elderly people fight financial exploitation. Jim asked me once, "Bob, are you sure about this? Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they deserve a second chance." I thought about that. about Sarah, about what she would have wanted, about forgiveness and family and Christian charity. Then I thought about Amanda's voice saying, "That's the story," when talking about making me look incompetent. The calculation, the eagerness in Michael's voice when he talked about $35,000 a month. They weren't going to give me a second chance, I said. They were going to lock me away and take everything. I'm not being vengeful, Jim. I'm being smart. He nodded slowly. So what now? Where are you going to live? I don't know yet. Somewhere small, somewhere quiet. Maybe coast, maybe mountains. Somewhere I can start over. Michael called 17 times that first week. I didn't answer. Amanda called 9 times. I didn't answer. They sent emails, texts, voice messages ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. Dad, we made a mistake, but this is cruel. You're destroying our future. Robert, I hope you're happy. Michael can barely function. Is this really what you want? Please, Dad. The kids are asking for you. Emma cries every night. How can you do this to them? That last one almost broke me. But then I remembered Emma and Jake watching at Thanksgiving when Michael took the carving knife from my hands. Being taught that Grandpa was incompetent. Being taught that it was okay to discard people when they became inconvenient. Maybe this was cruel. But maybe they needed to learn that actions have consequences. That you don't get to take everything from someone and then beg for forgiveness when you get caught. I ended up in Cannon Beach, in a small rental cottage 2 blocks from the ocean. I could hear the waves at night. I started going to a local church, not because I was particularly religious, but because Sarah would have liked it. I volunteered at a food bank on Tuesdays. I took long walks on the beach every morning. I was lonely sometimes. I missed the grandkids. I missed what I thought my life was going to be. But I didn't miss the lying. I didn't miss the fear. I didn't miss wondering when they were going to make their move. 3 months later, in March, Jim called me. Bob, you should know. Michael and Amanda filed for divorce. I was silent for a moment. When? Last week. Apparently, without your properties and the expected income, they couldn't maintain their lifestyle. The house is being sold. They're splitting everything 50-50, which isn't much. Michael's devastated, according to mutual friends. I thanked Jim and hung up. I sat in my little cottage and looked out at the gray ocean. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt vindicated. But mostly, I just felt sad. Michael called that evening. For the first time in 3 months, I answered. Dad! His voice was hoarse. Dad, I know you probably won't want to hear from me, but Amanda left. She filed for divorce. She said without the properties, without the money, there was no point in staying. She blamed me for losing everything, for not handling you better. I'm sorry, Michael. Are you? There was something bitter in his voice, but underneath it, something broken. I lost my wife. I'm losing my house. The kids have to change schools. Everything's falling apart. You were going to lock me in a nursing home and steal everything I built. What did you think would happen? A long silence. Then, very quietly, I thought we'd get away with it. At least he was being honest now. I was wrong, he continued. Not wrong to get caught. Wrong to do it at all. You were never incompetent. You were never a burden. We wanted the money. We got greedy. And I destroyed everything. Yes, I said simply. You did. Is there any way? Can we ever fix this? I looked out at the ocean. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and pink. Sarah would have loved this view. I don't know, Michael. Not now. Maybe someday. But right now, I need to heal. And you need to figure out who you want to be. The kids ask about you. I put money aside for their college. Jim has the details. They'll be taken care of. That's not what I meant. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Michael said, I love you, Dad. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. I know, I said. And I did. That was the hardest part. He'd done a terrible thing, but he was still my son. Goodbye, Michael. I hung up before he could respond. I sat there as the sun finished setting, as the sky turned from pink to purple to black. I thought about Sarah, about what she would have done. She was always better at forgiveness than I was, more generous, more hopeful. But she also wouldn't let anyone walk over her. She had boundaries. She had dignity. Maybe that's what I'd done. Not revenge, not cruelty, just boundaries, just dignity. I stood up and walked down to the beach. The tide was coming in, washing away the footprints from earlier in the day, starting fresh, starting clean. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and make coffee and take my morning walk. I'd volunteer at the food bank. I'd have lunch with Tom, a widower I'd met at church who was teaching me to paint. I'd build a new life, smaller than my old one, but mine. And someday, maybe, if Michael did the work to become the man I'd hoped he'd be, we could try again. But not now, not yet. For now, I needed to focus on healing, on rebuilding myself instead of what I'd lost. Because that's what survivors do. We rebuild. We start over. We keep going. And I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot.